Incredible moment revealed, CEO surprises struggling mom with funds for daughter's 300 medicine. Sarah stared blankly at the pile of bills on the kitchen counter, her heart sinking deeper as she scanned each envelope. The past due notices practically screamed at her, the black typeface blurring in the haze of her exhaustion. She traced her fingers over the line that read, "Emergency funds required for Emily's medication," the digits punctuating her every thought. $300 for a bottle that seemed to taunt her from the heights of unaffordability. Your child's health, a constant reminder of her ever-strained budget. She had felt isolated in her struggles, each day slipping into the next without respite. At the diner, her legs ached from the hours spent on her feet. The clatter of cutlery and chatter of patrons faded into a dull roar as she served pancakes to customers who didn't think twice about tipping her, if at all. How could they understand the urgency behind her weary smile? "Just keep pushing through," she whispered to herself, the mantra becoming a fragile lifeline. When the last customer left, it was her mind that raced as she wiped tables down, calculating the meager tips she had just earned. Could it stretch to cover Emily's needs? As she lay in bed later, the weight of the world anchored her down. The thought of losing her daughter to something so preventable, all due to a lack of funds, twisted in her gut. No matter how hard she worked, the shadow of financial instability lingered, and it darkened her spirit. Did she have the strength to face another week filled with uncertainty? One wrong turn could bring everything crashing down. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night as Sarah cleaned offices, her exhaustion transformed into hollow determination. The flickering fluorescent lights above cast long shadows, mimicking the darkness creeping into her heart. With each sweep of the broom, she imagined the medication Emily needed, confronting the list of what-ifs that rattled her brain. What if this frantic existence wore her down to nothing? What if she failed to provide? The thought stole her breath with a cold, unsettling grip. Weeks passed, silence filled by the ringing of ghosts from phones that never rang with a job opportunity or emergency relief. Desperation settled in like an unwelcome guest, tightening around her chest. Was she doing this right? Did she even have a choice? The whispers grew louder, all questioning her ability to thrive. Just the other day, she overheard a woman at the diner saying, "Some people just don't try hard enough." That statement sliced through her, leaving a raw ache that melded with the late-night frenzy of scrubbing and sweeping. As Sarah fought through her thoughts, something remained hidden, an ember of hope amidst the fierce tide of doubt. How long would it flicker before it finally went out? How long before she broke? She stared at the clock ticking steadily above her, marking time like the relentless march of her life. Would a stranger's kindness be enough to shift her fate? The tremor of anxiety twisted in her gut, questioning if this was more than just a fleeting moment. Would help come only attached to strings she couldn't see? Each thought crashed against the next, building ripples of uncertainty as she stood at the edge of desperation, a decision looming. The door to her life felt ajar, ready to swing wide open, and yet, the unknown rattled her core. Would she dare step through? Would it change everything, reshaping her world? The following morning, Sarah awoke to a harsh ray of sunlight slicing through the blinds, jarring her from the fragile hold-on sleep she had clung to. Rolling over, she took stock of her surroundings, a chaos of bills and toys scattered across the floor, an undeniable testament to the life she was barely managing. She bolstered herself with the single thought that crossed her mind, today could be different. As she hurried through the morning rituals, her mind churned with possibilities. What if she took a leap? The whispers of self-doubt echoed through her thoughts, but the ember of hope sparked anew. Maybe there was a way out. Her fingers brushed the stack of envelopes, glossy and mocking, and she resolved to seek out assistance, not just from the same channels that had left her feeling inadequate but from broader horizons. Leaving the house, she ventured into the day with an unfamiliar vigor. The diner, usually a backdrop of monotony, transformed into a space ripe with potential. Between servings, she collected snippets of conversation, penetrating the surface of small talk to gauge the lives of the patrons who animated her workday. The faces she saw every morning weren't just customers, they could become gateways to unforeseen opportunities. Then, as if fate was aligning, she overheard a discussion about a community health initiative promising grants for families in need. Sarah's heart quickened a lifeline. She approached the table, a determined fire building within her. "Excuse me," she ventured tentatively. "I couldn't help but hear. How do I get involved?" The warmth of their response enveloped her. They provided a contact number, detailing the application process, and as they exchanged friendly advice, Sarah felt a sense of empowerment surge through her veins. It wasn't only hope this time, it felt like an actual plan taking shape. Back at home, she cleared a corner of the kitchen table, transforming it into her makeshift workspace. The act of organizing the chaos became cathartic. Weaving through documents and applications sent her into a focused frenzy. Each form conquered was a step closer to that slippery goal of securing Emily's medication. The writing took on a rhythm, the steadfast caress of her pen echoing her burgeoning resolve. Through the haze of words and deadlines, something remarkable began to unfold within her. Doubt started to wither, replaced by a burgeoning recognition of her capabilities. Did she have the strength to shape her narrative? The answer burned bright, tearing through the fear that had long haunted her. However, the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily against her chest. She glanced at the clock, the minute hand inching ever closer to the end of the day. What if the initiative encountered delays? What if she missed the deadline? Each thought flashed like a neon alert, and she wrestled with the familiar anxiety clawing at her freedom. Had she underestimated the challenges that lay ahead? A voice in her head insisted she prepare for disappointment, but she staunchly pushed it aside. She had to believe there would be an answer, a breakthrough. Determined, she made a second cup of coffee, the aroma a reminder of the intense focus and energy that surged through her. With every sip, visions of a better life for Emily threaded through her mind, fortifying her against the rising tide of uncertainty. The prospect of change was intoxicating and terrifying all at once, but the flame ignited inside drew her closer to action. That night, with the applications finally submitted, Sarah lay awake, her heart racing, a thrilling mix of fear and anticipation swirling inside her. She was standing on the precipice of a new beginning, the unknown stretching before her like an uncharted territory riddled with potential and obstacles alike. As she stared into the darkness, the soft sound of Emily's breath sighing peacefully from the next room filled her with fierce determination. Tomorrow, she would follow up on the application and reach out for other avenues of assistance. She could not let this moment slip through her fingers. Then came another thought: what if there were even more resources she hadn't yet considered? The sense of urgency thrummed through her. The time had come to face the labyrinth of choices ahead, knowing that each one could alter the course of their lives forever. The chill of dawn nudged Sarah from troubled dreams, and yet again she found herself wrestling with uncertainty. The sun lay low, spilling hesitant light across her cluttered kitchen. The remnants of yesterday, a half-filled coffee cup, a stack of documents, and a glowing laptop served as the stage for her burgeoning resolve. Today was not merely another day, it was a continuation of her journey to reclaim familial stability. After quickly dressing, her mind buzzed with the purpose that had sparked the night before. She poured herself a fresh cup of coffee, mentally steeling herself for the calls she had to make. Each ring would not just be a connection, it was an opportunity to bridge the gap between her dreams and her reality. With the contact number saved on her phone, Sarah steeled herself and dialed for the Community Health Initiative. The phone rang twice before a friendly voice greeted her. "Hello, this is Marissa. How can I help you?" Her heart raced as she spoke. "I'm calling about the grants you mentioned at the diner. I submitted my application last night." Each word felt heavy, laden with hope and desperation. "That's great. Let me pull it up," Marissa replied. Sarah could almost hear the clicks of a keyboard, the sound of fate being drafted and edited in real time. As she spoke, the weight on her shoulders felt a shade lighter. After a breathless wait, Marissa confirmed receipt of her application and provided details on what else might be available. Their conversation opened a doorway to resources previously unexplored. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities: counseling services, food assistance, and support groups. Each piece felt like a stepping stone leading her away from the edge of despair and into a realm of possibility. "Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions," Marissa said, her voice warm and genuine. As Sarah hung up, a sense of empowerment washed over her. She had initiated a conversation that could potentially alter their futures. This sense of agency ignited a fire within her. Fueled by this new momentum, she made a list. Each item on it represented a resource, a person, or an organization that could contribute to the positive shift she desperately craved. The act of creation felt exhilarating. With each tick on the list, she recognized her ability to actively shape outcomes rather than passively waiting for help to arrive. Sarah realized that stepping outside her comfort zone fostered a sense of control that felt exhilarating. But with this newfound determination came a gnawing worry. What if her efforts were not enough? What if these resources dissolved into mere words without changing their reality? Pushing the doubts away, she focused on the tangible steps she could take. After scribbling down her list, she grabbed her bag and headed out, determined to visit local organizations she had learned about. Each stop felt like a mission, each conversation could be the catalyst for significant change. As she navigated the streets, she felt a rush of energy course through her veins. Every passerby transformed from a stranger into a potential ally. She found herself smiling, engaging in casual interactions that lingered just a moment too long, heartened by the thought that these little connections might bloom into something greater. Arriving at the first organization, a local health charity, Sarah pushed through the door and was enveloped in a buzz of activity. Faces around her were filled with purpose, the air thick with possibility. She approached the reception desk, steeling herself for another round of inquiries. But a wave of anxiety washed over her as she prepared to share her story once more. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, a figure stepped forward, a woman in a crisp blazer who exuded an air of authority. "Can I help you?" she asked, her sharp gaze assessing. Suddenly, the room faded into the background, and Sarah felt her voice quiver at the cusp of revealing their vulnerable truth. This moment felt pivotal, a reckoning not just with her circumstances, but with herself. Would she wear her struggles like a badge of honor or allow them to define her? The question hung heavy. In that heart-stopping instant, as she prepared to answer, a revelation rippled through her. She possessed the capability to change her life, deeply and profoundly. Her resolve solidified just as she prepared to speak, and as she opened her mouth, the words hung in the balance, uncertain but ripe with potential. What awaited beyond this moment? Would she claim her voice or retreat once again into silence? The moment felt electric, poised between doubt and determination, as the future shimmered just out of reach, ready to respond to her choice. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The moment felt vast, stretching infinitely as she stood there, her heart pounding in her chest. The other woman's expression shifted, softening a fraction but retaining its professionalism, suggesting that beneath the formality, there was room for understanding. "I'm here to learn about resources for families in need. I heard about your organization and thought I could find some help." Each word she uttered felt like it had been forged in iron, a mix of vulnerability and strength. It was both terrifying and liberating to voice her struggles aloud. "Absolutely, we're here to support parents just like you. Let us sit down and discuss what you're going through." The woman gestured towards a small but comfortable seating area tucked away from the bustling activity around her. The invitation felt like a lifeline, and Sarah accepted, settling into the chair and willing her nerves to subside. As they talked, Sarah unfolded the reality of her situation, her daughter's medical needs, the spiraling costs, and the emotional toll on their family. The words poured out, a brew of desperation that liquidated the barriers she had built. Each confession chipped away at the layer of hesitation that had clung to her for far too long, the executive listened intently, asking probing questions that encouraged deeper exploration of not just their needs but their dreams, hopes, and aspirations. "What are some goals you have for yourself and your daughter?" she inquired, her tone sincere. The question caught Sarah off guard. Goals. It felt like the word hung in the air, jolting her out of her whirlpool of worries. For so long, her focus had been solely on survival. Daily easing into the chaos of the unknown had overshadowed any thoughts about what she truly wanted for her life. I've been thinking about going back to school. I want to be able to support her better and provide a stable environment for us," she admitted, her voice gaining a hint of strength. Education is empowering, her companion encouraged, and Sarah could see a glimmer of understanding in her eyes. "What would you study?" "Something in health or social work," she replied, the answer surprising herself as much as the other woman. "I want to help others like me." "Then let us create a plan," the woman said, her expression shifting to one of resolve. "We can connect you with training and resources. You have the foundation, now we just need to build on it." That flame ignited within Sarah yet again, stronger this time. They delved into the specifics of grants, scholarships, and vocational training opportunities. Each prospect was a step toward a reality where she was not merely a participant in her life but the architect of it. As they finalized a list of actionable items, Sarah felt a swell of emotions, an odd mixture of hope, empowerment, and still a twinge of fear. What if she stumbled? What if she committed to this path and faltered? "It's a process," the woman said gently, sensing the turmoil brewing within Sarah. "You don't need to have it all figured out right now. Take it step by step. You have the power to make the choices that lead you forward, not backward." With each piece of advice, the shadows of doubt receded, exposing a bright horizon she hadn't fully realized was within reach. "I can change this." She locked eyes with her companion, something steadfast igniting between them. After their meeting concluded, Sarah stepped outside into the daylight, feeling lighter, buoyed by possibilities. The world felt different, not just a landscape of challenges but a canvas waiting for her brushstrokes. Yet, just as excitement danced in her heart, a gnawing question nestled in the pit of her stomach: would she be able to balance her ambitions with the needs of her daughter? With this determination to act swelling in her chest, she pulled out her phone and texted her daughter's doctor for an update on the medication situation. But before her finger could hit send, a new message popped up, a notification from her bank. Curiosity piqued. Sarah opened it, sweat immediately breaking out at her temples. "Your account has received a deposit of $5,000. In that moment, the atmosphere around her shifted. It was as if the universe was reaching out, and with nerves taut, she took a deep breath. Would this unexpected injection of hope be the breakthrough she needed, or would it veil a deeper challenge ahead? As surprise morphed into anticipation, she felt the weight of her choices burgeoning with urgency. Now her path was lined not just with promises but with significant decisions waiting to unfold. What would she do with this unexpected gift? Would it fortify her resolve or drown her in new dilemmas? The next chapter of her life was poised for an unforeseen twist, and Sarah felt the thrill of the unknown beckoning boldly ahead. The moment Sarah read the bank notification, the world around her faded into a blur. The bustling street transformed into a mere backdrop for the storm brewing inside her. $5,000. An unexpected lifeline or an insurmountable pressure? She clutched her phone tightly, feeling both exhilaration and a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. This money could cover her daughter's medication for months, a relief she never thought possible. But it also dangled the weight of expectation. What if this was a gift loaded with strings that she couldn't see yet? Her mind was a battleground, weighing the immediate need against the broader implications of her choices. Should she use the money to secure her daughter's health now and temporarily postpone her ambitions, or invest it in her education, on a path toward a future that could stabilize their lives? The choices crystallized before her, yet the clarity was suffocated by self-doubt. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to step aside from the chaotic throngs of passers-by. Sarah found a nearby bench, settled on the cool metal, and closed her eyes, allowing each breath to pull her into an introspective space. She had long been a spectator in her own life, driven by necessity rather than desire. Now, for the first time, an opportunity stretched out before her, an opportunity to choose a different narrative. The words of the executive resonated with her. You have the power to make choices that lead you forward, not backward. Those echoing sentiments lit a flicker of determination deep within her. What did she truly want? Surprisingly, the answer came swiftly. Education. She envisioned herself in a classroom, surrounded by books and the hum of knowledge, delving into ways to advocate for children like her daughter. To empower herself in health or social work. This wasn't just a career, it was a calling, an opportunity to create the change she sought, not only for her daughter but for other families standing at the edge of despair. The weight shifted, and the invitation of the future felt intense and beautiful. Igniting with resolve, she opened her eyes, wrestling with the emotions that had dictated her past. The arrival of the funds felt serendipitous, almost as if the universe was challenging her to step up, to respond to her own ambitions. Suddenly, she saw the distinct choices laid out, the immediate relief that felt cozy and safe, or the less certain, more arduous path of education that held the promise of a more stable future. What would this choice say about her? Would she choose ease in the shadow of her fear, or courage that illuminated the pathway toward her hopes? Casting the fear aside for a moment, Sarah envisioned reaching for that dream, applying for grants, enrolling in courses that would empower her voice. She imagined sitting in classes, her daughter's laughter echoing in her mind as a reminder of why she was striving. She could balance it, could find ways to care for both her and her aspirations. With newfound tenacity, she opened her phone again, crafting a quick text to her daughter's doctor, laying out her plan for both medicine and education. Just as she was about to press send, a challenge emerged, a thought whispering doubt. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she couldn't keep up with the demands of school? The fear folded back in, rimmed with vulnerability, tempting her to retreat to the comfort of her old ways. But Sarah shook her head fervently. It was time for her to confront those voices. She reached for inspiration. She thought of the executive's words once more. The resolve surged. With a few taps, she sent that text, symbolizing a decisive step toward her future. Yet doubt still lurked in the shadows, casting questions she could no longer ignore. She needed guidance, someone to validate her ambition and her plan, maybe even academic support. Standing up from the bench, Sarah's heart thudded in her chest. With a fresh wave of determination washing over her, it was time to navigate these uncharted waters. Who could she reach out to for mentorship? Who could ground her in this overwhelming swirl of changes on the horizon? A gust of fresh air whipped at her hair as she took her next step, her determination sharper than it had ever been. The twists her life had taken were daunting, yet exhilarating, and for the first time in ages, she felt a profound sense of possibility swirling around her. A lingering question pulsed in her chest: how would she reach out for help and overcome her fears? And more critically, would her journey lead her to tap into her hidden potential, or would she falter when faced with the obstacles ahead? The path was alive with uncertainty, and the next chapter awaited just beyond the horizon. Sarah felt the brisk wind curling around her, awakening her senses as she retraced her steps down the bustling street. The world seemed more vivid now, a kaleidoscope of possibilities, and she allowed that sentiment to wash over her. Her joints were stiff with apprehension, but she pressed forward, her mind racing with thoughts of who could be her anchor in this shifting tide. With every stride, she thought about the executive's words. They had kindled a flame of confidence within her, but was it enough to navigate the path ahead? As she ambled past storefronts adorned with cheerful displays, she recognized a familiar throbbing in her chest, the pang of fear that had long governed her choices. Determined to reshape her narrative, she resolved to seek a mentor. Turning a corner, she spotted an old community center she once frequented years ago. The building was a little worse for wear, but it still exuded warmth and familiarity. Perhaps it held the key to the guidance she craved, a way to connect with someone who could help illuminate her journey. Sarah stepped inside, the door creaking as she pushed it open. The air was filled with the scent of fresh coffee and soft chatter, a comforting ambience that felt like a refuge from her constant internal storms. She approached the front desk, her voice barely above a whisper as she inquired about mentorship programs. "Yes, we have a few options," said a kind, middle-aged woman behind the desk, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. "Are you looking for professional development or something more personal?" Sarah hesitated, the weight of her ambitions suddenly heavy on her shoulders. "Honestly, I need both. I want to pursue education in social work, especially for kids like my daughter." The woman nodded, her expression morphing into one of understanding. "That's a noble pursuit. We offer mentorship that aligns with educational goals, plus workshops that can help build your skills." Excitement mingled with nerves, but it felt different this time, energizing. She signed up for the program, a seedling of determination sprouting within her. Yet, as she left the center, her resolve was soon clouded by a creeping doubt. What if she didn't have the intelligence or resilience necessary to succeed in school? What if she overwhelmed herself, juggling her responsibilities? That evening, back at home, surrounded by the familiar chaos of toys and blankets, she sat down with her daughter's favorite books. The little girl nestled in close, her bright eyes sparkling as she flipped the pages. In this moment, Sarah remembered why she had sought this change. Every decision she made had to place her daughter's well-being first, not just medically, but also as a powerful role model. Out of the blue, her daughter looked up, eyes wide. "Mommy, you're going to school, right? You'll be happy?" The question struck Sarah like a lightning bolt. Would pursuing her education really make her happier? "I will, sweetheart," she replied, the words resonating with truth, although they trembled under the weight of her uncertainty. "I'm going to push through all this worry. I want to show you that you can chase your dreams, no matter what." Encouraged by the conversation, she revisited her phone. With trembling fingers, she scrolled through her contacts, pausing on the executive's number, the one who had sparked this journey. It took only a moment before she pressed call, her heart racing. "Hi, this is Sarah," she began when her mentor answered, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm taking steps toward education, but I could use some support and advice on what classes to take. Can we meet?" Relief eased her chest as they agreed to schedule a meeting, and she hung up feeling the flicker of hope start to grow. Still, the doubts lingered in the back of her mind, whispering insistently. The clock ticking on the wall seemed to echo the urgency of her situation, tension thick in the air. What if she encountered adversity she couldn't manage? What if she wasn't as resilient as she believed? As Sarah lay in bed that night, turmoil danced in her thoughts, the possibilities of success and failure weaving together like a fraying thread. Her decision to reach out for help was a leap into the unknown, a risk she had never taken before. With her future at stake, the looming question of her capacity to adapt loomed large. Would seeking guidance catapult her into the next phase of her life, or would she falter, retreating into the shadows of self-doubt once more? The stakes were higher than ever, and the answer was just beyond reach. The following week loomed heavy with anticipation. Sarah hadn't slept well since reaching out, each night spiraling into restless hours filled with her gnawing fears. She was due to meet the executive the next day, and with each tick of the clock, her confidence flickered like a dimming bulb. Doubt consumed her. What could she possibly offer in return for the guidance she craved? Would he truly see potential where she saw only flaws? As the sun rose, painting the room in soft, golden light, Sarah's resolve hardened like steel. She knew she couldn't allow her fears to paralyze her any longer. This was an opportunity, and she would seize it, but how? Thoughts began to swirl through her mind. She needed to present herself genuinely, conveying just how much she needed not just mentorship, but an ally. At breakfast, she prepared her face, wearing a practiced, determined smile for her daughter. But internally, the questions raged on. Would this new journey crack open hidden reserves of strength within her? Or would it unearth only the shadows of her past failures? As she dressed, pulling on her favorite blazer, a relic from her past corporate life, Sarah recognized it was more than clothing, it was armor. It had once symbolized ambition, the day-to-day grind of corporate success. But today, it would be a layer between her and the vulnerability she feared, a reminder of who she had strived to become years before life diverged into chaos. The meeting was taking place at a cafe, nestled between towering offices, a place both intimidating and charming, for it buzzed with professionals feeding on caffeine and ambition. Sarah stepped inside, the sound of chatter ringing out like a siren call, urging her to stay focused and purposeful. She spotted the executive seated at a corner table, with an open laptop before him. His presence was commanding, and instinctively, she straightened her back, fighting off the urge to blend into the wall. As she made her way over, each step was a duel against self-doubt. The conversation unfolded with unexpected ease. He listened intently as she articulated her ambitions, the very foundation of her desire to help children akin to her daughter, caught in the currents of circumstance. Each word carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. Sharing her goals invigorated her spirit. However, with each kind word from him, shadows danced at the edges of her mind, questions of competence, whispers of failure. Was sharing her vulnerabilities wise? Would it paint her as inadequate? How do you envision your education shaping your career? He asked, his pen poised above a notepad. I want to be a bridge for children in need of support. I want them to know they can change the narrative of their circumstances, she replied, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside. His smile softened. That's not just admirable, it's necessary. But let me ask you something honest. What makes you believe you can succeed in this realm when you've struggled in the past? The question sliced through her facade, her heart skipping a beat. How could she explain the struggles without sounding like a failure? A realization dawned. This was not about her defeating doubt, it was about acknowledging it. I've learned perseverance, she admitted slowly, voice quaking. And I know firsthand how important it is to feel supported, to have someone believe in you. His gaze sharpened in interest, and she felt an unexpected sense of power surge inside her. Maybe her struggles were armor, not chains. Perhaps her experience could transform into a strength that differentiated her in the field of social work. As the meeting wound down, a palpable hope replaced some of her doubts. But just as she felt a flicker of joy, the executive handed her a folder, a scholarship opportunity. Suddenly, a new anxiety bubbled beneath the surface. What if this was not just a guide, but a challenge she had yet to prepare for? And then there was an unexpected mention of funds allocated to support children in need, resources that could directly help her daughter. Her mind whirled. Excitement mingled with disbelief. Was this the break she was seeking, or an even greater risk threatening to topple the fragile confidence she was forging? Questions clouded her excitement. Would she now have to face her past decisions head-on? And who, then, could she rely on if this path led to unexpected complications? Her pathway was clearer yet more convoluted than before, and as she stepped back into the noisy world outside the cafe, she felt both exhilarated and daunted. The choice lay ahead, a precipice from which the ground below seemed to shimmer with opportunity and peril. But even as the horizon brightened, a menacing thought lingered. What hidden challenges awaited her on this journey toward a new future? Stepping out of the cafe, the incessant chatter of ambition-filled conversations buzzed around Sarah, but inside, her world felt eerily silent. The folder cradled in her arms felt heavier than expected, each paper an anchor sinking her deeper into contemplation. The scholarship opportunities were a bridge, yet the potential funding for her daughter's South medicines loomed threateningly close, igniting a mix of hunger for change and fear of the implications. She walked to her car, the worn leather seats a stark reminder of the years gone by. As she sat down, her hands trembled slightly, barely able to grasp the steering wheel. The realities of her past pressed against her, those moments filled with debt and desperation, navigating a life filled with obstacles. Doubt crept back in, curling around her resolve. Was she ready to take on not just her ambitions, but the weight of her child's needs? The thought sent ripples of concern through her mind. Could she balance both, or would she merely expose her vulnerabilities again? The drive home felt longer than usual. As she maneuvered through traffic, her mind raced, dissecting every aspect of the meeting. The executive had seen something in her. Perhaps he recognized that her struggles alone didn't disqualify her from success. Could she really embrace that perspective? Her reasons for pursuing this path extended beyond personal ambition, they were woven into her desire for a better world for her daughter and children like her. Yet, could she shoulder the responsibility, or was it another reckless endeavor? Once home, the comforting scent of her daughter's favorite pasta wafted through the air, an inviting reminder of warmth and safety despite the swirling chaos in her mind. As she entered the kitchen, she was met with the wide eyes of her daughter, uncomplicated and bright with simple joys. "Mom! Are you hungry? I made dinner." "Well, mostly." The lightheartedness in her voice cascaded around Sarah, melting away some of the anxiety that clung stubbornly to her heart. "Of course, sweetheart," she said, forcing a smile. "What's the best part?" Her daughter beamed, indicating her modified version of macaroni and cheese, with an audacious sprinkle of something green, a feeble attempt at healthy eating that elicited a chuckle. As they sat together at the table, laughter embodied the atmosphere, yet Sarah's heart thumped uneasy thoughts. Did her daughter feel the weight of their situation? She kept her gaze trained on her plate, using the momentary distraction to collect her thoughts. Was it right to plunge into a commitment that could shift their lives irreparably, especially for something as uncertain as a scholarship? That night, as Sarah tucked her daughter into bed, the little one wrapped her arms around her neck, a blissful expression plastered across her face. The pure affection ignited a fire in Sarah's heart. She realized she was not just seeking an opportunity for herself, but to reclaim hope for her child as well. Every career decision rippled into their lives, each risk complex, yet it brought newfound clarity. She did not want to hide from her ambitions any longer. Returning to her own room, Sarah found herself staring at the folder on her desk. It exuded a sense of authority that both beckoned and intimidated her. If she was going to navigate this new pathway, she had to make an unwavering choice: commit fully or bow out gracefully, but living in fear was no longer an option. This moment held potential, yet it demanded a confrontation with the self-doubt weighing her down. Grabbing a pen, she flipped through the documents, reigniting the sense of purpose from her meeting. Her mind simulated various scenarios, unraveling paths to take, people to connect with, gaps to fill. But each layer of planning revealed yet another question: what would others expect of her now? Was her ambition enough to watch herself morph into someone worthy of this belief? The night wore on, time absorbed in her thoughts until she could write no more. Determination coalesced amid the uncertainty, but could she commit without knowing what lay ahead? The deeper she delved into her own revelations, the more the echoes of her past crept in. How often had she overextended herself, only to trip back into failure? As she slid into bed, her mind was a torrent of conflicting emotions. She was right at the edge of change, holding on to the possibilities suspended before her. But beyond those possibilities lay the stark reality of demanding choices. Tomorrow would set the stage for either a climb upward or a fall backward. A new question loomed in her mind: what was she truly prepared to risk in her pursuit of purpose? Morning light sliced through the curtains, revealing the crumpled papers of her ambitions spread across the desk like a chaotic map. Privacy felt like a luxury Sarah couldn't afford, and yet every creak of the house reminded her that this was her sanctuary. As she stirred from light sleep, the clarity of the coming day began to crystallize. Today, she would not allow fear to dominate her. Clearing her mind of the doubts hanging like ominous clouds, she forced herself to review the papers again. Each document reflected more than just potential; they held fragments of dreams, hers and her daughter's. She could feel the urgency of that moment in the cafe, where someone had seen in her what she had tried desperately to conceal: desire. Her new strategy crystallized. She would reach out beyond her comfort zone, inviting critique and collaboration from others, rather than keeping her ambition stifled in isolation. With every ounce of discipline, she constructed an email to the executive who had shown interest. The letter needed to balance gratitude and purpose. She was not merely seeking help, she was inviting someone to partner with her in crafting a new future. As she typed, an unexpected thought crept into her mind: who else could she inspire in the process? Could she become an advocate not just for her daughter, but for countless others navigating the complexities of health and education? Little by little, the stakes rose higher in her internal dialogue, intensifying her resolve. She hesitated for a moment, the cursor blinking relentlessly, telling her to push send. Would he see her as another struggling parent seeking charity? An image of her daughter, her eyes bright with innocence, hardened Sarah's determination. No, she would not let herself be defined by her circumstances. Whatever else this journey demanded, she would rise to it. The email sent, she felt unmoored. It was as though she had jumped off a cliff. But instead of despair, she experienced a rush of exhilaration. As the day progressed, the weight of what she had done settled into her chest. A powerful sense of agency began to replace the nagging fear. 3 days passed without a word. Each hour dragged as the window of her commitment to herself widened, filling her with new purpose and pressure. She busied herself with work, but each conversation with clients reminded her of her aspirations. Witnessing the simple joys of her daughter at play each evening served as a reinforcement. It felt wrong to entertain defeat. She needed to push further, dream wider. Finally, her phone buzzed in a meeting. The email. The executive's response was a carefully curated blend of interest, followed by a request to meet. Excitement and anxiety collided in her chest. The moment was both exhilarating and terrifying. He recognized her potential, but would she be prepared to articulate her vision? She spent hours preparing, crafting her pitch, entwining personal stories with professional goals. Something deeper began to emerge, revealing her unseen skill to weave narratives that struck at the heart. She realized that communication could bridge understanding between her ambitions and the reality of her daughter's needs. That evening, her daughter's laughter filled the house as they played a game, but Sarah's mind was rooted in the meeting. Visualizing each potential conversation, she found herself rehearsing not just what she stood to gain, but how she wanted to impact her audience. But even as her confidence swelled, self-doubt tangled with her thoughts again, whispering insidiously. What if this great leap ended in failure? She needed to hold on to the clarity she had found, the revelations bursting forth from within. In a fleeting moment of mental clarity, she recognized that the fear she felt was an inherent part of growth, a struggle she had encountered repeatedly in life. Meeting the executive wasn't just an opportunity, it was a test of every limiting belief she had ever held. As she tucked her daughter into bed that night, whispering reassurances that everything would be all right, another question flickered in her mind. What if success felt different than she had always imagined? The next day would seal her fate, but it would also reveal the truth of her aspirations. She was on the brink, poised to transform her worries into stepping stones. The stakes were higher than ever. Would this meeting ignite the path toward a new beginning, or would it mark another cycle of uncertainty? The sun brightened the sky as Sarah stood outside the bustling cafe where her meeting was set to take place. Today wasn't just another day, it symbolized the culmination of her rebirth. She felt it deep within her, a quiet assurance that she had been molded by her trials and fires. The revolving doors of the cafe were a metaphor for her life, spinning with possibilities, unveiling new chapters. As she took a deep breath, she thought back to her old life, one of a passive existence where fears loomed larger than her ambitions. But this Sarah, empowered and resolute, was ready to embrace vulnerability. Would she find her voice today? Yes, she would. Walking inside, she spotted the executive at the corner table, his presence commandingly warm. "Sarah, I'm glad you're here. Let us talk," he said, gesturing for her to sit. As they settled, she could feel the weight of expectation but also the hum of opportunity in the air. "After our last meeting, I spent time reflecting," he began. "You're passionate about helping children, but what I sensed most was your resilience. You've navigated substantial challenges and come out stronger. So, tell me, what does success look like for you?" In that moment, Sarah's vision sharpened. "Success is being able to create a stable environment where my daughter can thrive physically and emotionally. I want to be an advocate for families facing similar challenges, ensuring that no child goes without the necessary support." She leaned forward, emotion coursing through her words. His expression shifted, recognizing her authenticity. "That's powerful, Sarah. Your personal experiences are your greatest asset. We're looking to develop community programs that directly address these issues. With your insight, You could spearhead initiatives to redefine how families access resources. Sarah felt a spark ignite inside her. This wasn't just an offer, it was an invitation to step into her purpose to become an active component of change. As they discussed her role deeper, instead of self-doubt, a sense of belonging enveloped her. Her ideas flowed freely, each one met with intrigue from the executive. She dedicated each word to the future of her daughter and every other child in need, the fear that had once chained her dissipating in the light of her aspirations. When the meeting concluded, the executive slid a folder across the table. Inside are resources and contacts for scholarship programs. This is not just an opportunity for funding, it's a pathway forward, not just for you, but for the community. The implications hit her hard. Money was a factor, yes, but so was support, a validation of everything she had fought for. Sarah accepted the folder with trembling hands, tears brimming as she reflected on the distance she had traveled. Each scar from her past had led her here, but they were also badges of honor in this context. Understanding your worth is half the battle, he said as she gathered herself. The knowledge you bring, combined with your experiences, it's invaluable. Sarah's heart soared. She felt solid confidence rising within her, a recognition of her competence forged through adversity and vigilance, firmly establishing her place among those who led with empathy and insight. As she walked out of the cafe, folder clutched tightly, the world around her felt more alive, vibrant in its possibilities. From the moment she had taken the first step towards change, every decision had reinforced her journey, transforming her fears into a powerful narrative of perseverance. Later that evening, as she tucked Emily into bed, Sarah shared the day's events using words that danced with excitement. Mommy is taking steps to help other kids, just like you. I can't wait to make a difference. Emily's eyes gleamed with the glow of admiration. You're my hero, Mommy. The profound realization anchored deep within Sarah, she had come full circle. The realization felt like a solid achievement and affirmation of her journey, her resolve to break chains of circumstance through education, advocacy, and sheer grit. Not just for herself but also for her daughter, a promise to be fulfilled that they would navigate the tides of uncertainty together. As Sarah lay in bed, exhaustion enveloping her like a love letter at night's end, her heart brimmed with pride. She had done it, pushed through the struggle and unearthed her strength. She had transformed from a life of survival to one catalyzing empowerment. Now was the time for action, both for herself and as a beacon for others. She was ready to rise, and as she drifted into sleep, the last thoughts she had were not burdens of doubt but flames of ambition, new chapters waiting to be written. The truth reverberated through her soul. She was not just surviving, she was thriving, conquering the world her way. It's your turn to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.